Singularity by William Sleator. 7. I wouldn't let Barry experiment with my calculator, but I remembered that Mom had packed a battery-operated travel clock for us, which we hadn't bothered to take out of the suitcase. It only took Barry a moment to find it. Then the three of us were hurrying across the meadow. Lucy still thought we were crazy, but Barry's excitement was catching, and she couldn't resist coming with us. You trying to tell me you were in there for a few seconds and you thought a whole day and night went by? She laughed, trotting along beside Barry. That's right, Barry was still smiling. He's putting us on, ain't he? She said to me. Wait, you'll see how clean the place is, Barry said. That took at least 5 hours, and I fell asleep and my beard grew. That couldn't all happen in less than a minute. How do I know your beard grew? He shaved this morning, I told her. I don't get it. Time goes faster in there. It's the only explanation, I said. Time goes faster? What's that supposed to mean? We passed the sundial. It's like... Think of it like that river, I said. The pool where you went swimming. The water hardly moves at all, but in another place, where it's shallow, the riverbed slopes. The water moves faster there. We stopped at the door. This playhouse, or maybe the rock it's built on, is like the rapids in a river. Time goes faster here. You just fell asleep, she said to Barry. Never read any science fiction, did you? Barry asked her, unlocking the door. She pursed her lips into the sardonic grimace that was beginning to seem familiar. Sure didn't, and I won't start if that's the kind of cuckoo ideas it gives you. Barry remained on the threshold, holding the door open. Cuckoo ideas, huh? He said. I'll show you how cuckoo. See this clock? Nothing wrong with it. It's telling the right time. He offered it to her like a magician asking a member of the audience to examine his top hat. Sure, you said it 5 minutes ago, she said. Yeah, it looks okay. Barry, meanwhile, rushed inside with one lightning movement, propped open the door, which opened inward with the metal chair. Okay, he said, jumping up. Everybody can see in now? We nodded. I had my calculator in my hand. Well, look closely. He sat the clock down on the stone slab just inside the door. For 5 seconds or so, the clock ticked along normally. Then, as we watched, it began to go faster. The second hand spun around wildly and then vanished into a blur. The minute hand raced after it. In a moment, it was a blur as well, like a pale film over the clock face. But we could still see the fat hour hand jerking visibly from 1 hour to the next and getting faster. Its motion was halting and uneven, as though it were trying to resist but couldn't. As it approached the speed of a second hand, it began to quiver. There was a ratchety whining noise. The clock trembled, and the blur was gone. The second and minute hand, twisted together, came to a grinding halt. The hour hand, disconnected from the mechanism, swung between 5 and 7, gradually losing momentum. Barry switched the clock back and shook it. The insides rattled. Couldn't take the pace, he said. He looked back inside the playhouse. It's not just any rapids in there. It's a regular Niagara Falls. It was ticking off hours, exactly as fast as seconds right before it broke, I said, switching off the calculator. Incredible. Sure is, said Lucy. Time going faster. She snorted. No little trick clock's going to make me believe that. You think the clock was fixed? Barry asked her. What else? You could have got it in a joke store, Barry shrugged. Fine, believe anything you want. He tossed the ruined clock in his hand. Too bad you'll never know what happened to your grandpa's animals. Huh? She said. Hey, Harry, I'm starving, he said. Let's have some lunch. We've got all kinds of exciting plans to make. This is going to be the greatest 2 weeks of my whole life. Sure, I said numbly. I knew there had been nothing funny about that clock. Time went faster in the playhouse. There was no other explanation. But unlike Barry, I didn't see the possibilities as thrilling. To me, the playhouse seemed about as much fun as an unexploded bomb. Lucy, despite her skepticism, came along with us, as Barry wanted her to. He wasn't interested in making plans with just me. What did you mean about Grandpa's animals? She asked Barry. I know what happened to them now. I looked around for Fred again as we approached the house. I hadn't seen him since breakfast and was beginning to wonder if he might have gotten lost. Yeah, Lucy was saying as we went inside. What happened to them? They starved to death, like I'm about to. What have we got, Harry? The usual, tuna fish, peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly. You make them better than me. You want one, Lucy? All right, thanks, Lucy said, sitting down at the table across from Barry. What do you mean they starved to death? They got onto that rock where time goes faster, and it goes a lot faster. An hour for every second outside. I heard him shaking the ruined clock again. Same thing happened to all the little skeletons. A few minutes went by outside, but it was days and days for them. They starved. And after they died, they'd rot and decompose just as fast. Yeah, but think of all the dead insects and the spider webs. It's been centuries in there since Uncle Ambrose died. Yeah, but back in Grandpa's day, there wasn't no playhouse to lock the animals in. Why didn't they just leave when they got hungry? I don't know. Maybe something held them there. Maybe Uncle Ambrose kept them there somehow. But why? He must have noticed peculiar things about that rock. Maybe he was doing experiments, trying to figure it out. I'd like to do a few experiments myself, he thought for a moment. That pump out in back of the playhouse must be rigged up to supply a huge amount of water instantly. And he needed all those batteries for the light, because if he used a regular power company, his bill would have been gigantic. There was a loud jangling sound. I jumped and dropped a glob of peanut butter on the floor. Hello? Barry said, quickly answering the phone. Oh, hi, Mom. I hurried over to stand beside him. Let me talk to her, I whispered. I knew I missed her more than he did. What do you mean, who is it? It's me, Barry, Mom. He scowled and shrugged me aside. Yeah, everything's fine. He's fine, too. I hovered impatiently beside his chair, eager to get on the phone and tell her my own version of what it was like here. Yeah, there's lots of stuff that might be worth something. Doesn't seem like there's been any vandalism. What's that? He smiled, then turned and looked up at me, holding my eyes. He said, slowly, no, nothing peculiar at all. He didn't want me to say a word about the playhouse. And what would happen if I did? Mom wouldn't understand what I was talking about, but she would think I'd gone nuts. She'd cancel her trip and come to Sushan as fast as possible, maybe even today, and that might interfere with whatever adventures or experiments Barry was planning. But what about you? What have you been doing? Barry asked her. Still watching me, he was putting off the moment when I'd get on the phone, but I didn't care. It would be so easy. All I'd have to do was tell her, and she'd be on her way. Come on, Barry, I said, reaching for the phone. He pressed the phone against his ear and shook his head at me. Uh-huh. Sounds wonderful. Then I began to wonder, would it really be that simple if I told her? First of all, she'd be hysterical at my craziness. It would ruin her vacation. And if I did get a flight today, there would still be many hours before she arrived at the house, hours during which Barry would be furious. There would be terrible fights, and I hated fighting, not to mention that Barry would make me feel like such a mama's boy in front of Lucy. Perhaps telling Mom would only make everything worse. I'll get him. He took the phone from his ear. Harry, he called as if I were in another room. He held the phone in his lap with one hand over the mouthpiece. He glared at me, his mouth set in a hard line. He handed me the phone. Hi, Mom, I said. Barry didn't take his eyes from me. Yeah, sure, everything's fine. Barry relaxed and turned back to Lucy, who was looking back and forth between us curiously. The lawyer guy was okay. Yeah. There's plenty of food here. We're just having lunch. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Last night I made grilled cheese and tomato soup. Okay, I'll say hi to Fred. He's having a great... My voice suddenly stopped. Yes, what about Fred? Mom said. Barry had turned back to me. Harry, are you there? What's the matter? Mom said. Nothing at all. Fred's having a great time. He loves the country, chasing rabbits and things. Barry nodded, smiling tightly at me. A moment later, Mom said goodbye and hung up. Very good, Harry, Barry said. Lucy looked puzzled. You two sure are the strangest pair of... The playhouse door, I said, the receiver still in my hand. You left the chair there. It's still open, isn't it? Did I? Barry shrugged. So what? You finished those sandwiches yet? Fred, I said, and I dropped the receiver and ran for the door. And that is the end of Chapter 7.